Yes, and we're here once again. Daughter del Viejo bringing you Shoot the Shit podcast. Got my boy John, got my boy Joel. Nice to have you guys here once again. Let's jump into it. Today we are talking about the psychology of a fighter. That could be broken down so many ways. Let me just first off say, I personally believe life throws barriers, throws problems at all of us. If you meet your problems head on and get through it, you're a fighter. All of us, one way or another, you're a fighter. If you're overweight and you're trying your best to come down, you're a fucking fighter. You're trying to move up in a corporate world and you got people getting in the way like crabs in a barrel and you're pushing up there and giving your all, you are a fighter. It's the psychology and the mentality behind it. It's not just about this. Because even the guys who can throw this the best will tell you the most important weapon is the one up here, which is why no matter how good a guy has his fists, he has his elbows, his knees, whatever it may be, you turn off the lights, you turn this off, he's nothing. So let's get into that. First of all, I'm going to give a brief definition that I could find of psychology, okay? Psychology is the study of the mind and behavior, and a little more in depth, it's the mind and the behavior in relation to a particular field of knowledge or activity. Joel, take it away.
All right, thank you for having me. We're going to expand a little bit on that definition, right?
Please.
Psychology is the study of human behavior, right, of cognition and emotion. Those three elements have to come into play, how they influence each other, how and what can affect them, right? So cognition is how we think, right? All our thoughts, our thought processes. Emotion is obviously what we feel, right? And then behavior is what we do. That's what psychology tries to, in a nutshell, study how all these things are interacting on an individual level, right? Because if we start looking at groups, then you're going to sociology. But yeah.
How do you study that? Like, are there key things that you're looking for? Does it vary between patients or?
Well, in clinical psychology, that's what I'm focusing on. My studies are focused on clinical psychology, right? What you try to do, and what's very important, step number one, is you have to gather a history, a very in-depth as you can within like an hour and a half, history of development of this individual. So that's how you start identifying patterns, right? What are their familiar patterns? What are their patterns at their school? What have been their behavioral patterns at their jobs? What have been their behavioral patterns at their house? Sexual patterns, history of substance uses, any psychiatric history. You get all this information first so that you can have an understanding of the person's background, right?
So basically, it's like start up a profile on the person, right?
Yeah. To get to know what those patterns are. You get that profile by getting that history. Then you try to focus on, at least in a clinical setting, you try to focus on what the person came in for services for, right? What's the reason that how can I help? Right? How can I help? Mm-hmm. When it comes to tools, right? Because that's a little bit more of a clinical setting. When it comes to just overall studying and understanding how a person behaves and acts and thinks, we have tools. We have what we call psychometric tests, right? Or personality tests as well, depending on what you want to study. A psychometric test is going to study the person's capacity for things like related to learning, memory, language, anything you could basically see at a school setting, right? Accumulated knowledge, motor function, hand-eye coordination, and then your personality test.
You do the ink splotch thingies?
That's a personality test.
Okay.
Yes, the Rorschach is a personality test.
I know it's funny, but it's a legitimate question.
It is a legitimate question. I took that class last semester. It was very interesting. It is extremely complicated to analyze those results, but it is systematic. There is a systematic meaning to what definitions or what that person is perceiving within the ink blots and where. Actually, it's a whole, like, it's not just what do you see here, jot it down, and that's it. No, it's what you see, where do you see it. Explain to me kind of why or how can you see it, and then the manual has this whole interpretation of what those things could be. Right?
Okay.
And then we start adding little personality traits here and there. This person is a little more anxious. This person is a little more, and then you take that with the history that development that you've taken at the interview, and to see if it makes sense. And usually they're congruent.
Okay.
So piggybacking on that about you guys collecting, I have 1,001 notes here. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Collecting patterns and history of the person. So going by that, would a psychologist be able to look at the records of these fighters, and roundabout say, okay, this guy is going to win because he's already been through this, that, and the other?
That's a tricky one.
Because that's what their record is. It's a collection of all of their stats.
Yeah. I think that's more a statistical question than it is a psychological one, right? I think that's just probability. If we're looking at, if you see by record their win-loss ratio, is that what you mean?
Well, more like, okay, if a guy got knocked out twice and his next fight is with a grappler, he might be a bit more at ease. He's not worried about getting knocked out again than if he was to go up against an Ngannou or somebody like that, where you know for a fact you're going to have to throw their hands.
Yeah.
So would that apply to that? Let me change the question. If you were to work psychologically with an athlete, would you use his fighter record as part of the history that you'll look through, or just the standardized tests that you have to define him or whatever it is that you...
Yeah, okay. We would use personal history of development, right? The way they were raised, what their family looks like, what their context, what their familial context is now, past work, past school. We get all that history that I spoke about before. But your suggestion is really interesting, because then I haven't read any studies that could say, based on, let's say, an opponent's fighting style, right? If an opponent is more adept to striking versus grappling, if that could have a personality, what's the word? Indicador. If that has any type of indication of the personality trait. I haven't read any of that. But that does sound.
Because I can tell you from experience, what they say in I think it's the second Matrix movie, you don't truly know a person until you fight them.
Okay.
That definitely that is true. That is so true. Every fear, every anger, if you're a calm person, if you're not, if you're analytical, if you're just headstrong, all of that stuff comes out. You know, you'll find out a lot about yourself in just the training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can do this. How many you want? I'll do 100 with you. And they may do the 100, but then you won't see them for the next 2 weeks because their pride got in the way. They really couldn't do the 100 and hurt themselves.
Mm-hmm.
See, so now they're prideful people that comes out within the training. If you're willing to learn, how is it that you lift it? How is it that you do this? You know, the person's personality definitely comes. There's nothing to hide behind when it comes to training. That's why I consider fighters and everybody who takes that fighting mentality to their personal life, even though they don't compete. I have high respect for people like that who push dead on, because in the fight is when you really know about yourself.
That just makes me think how Miyamoto Musashi, who wrote the Book of Five Rings, he was a samurai and a philosopher. He's the one who said that martial arts, and the point of martial arts is to find the ultimate truth. And that piggybacks a lot of what you were saying. And with regards to with what you were saying earlier, that's a super interesting way of looking at it. If a fighter's style, records, etc., can help them get psychological help. As far as like helping predict the outcome of their next fight, I feel that's like a slippery slope. You ever heard of the term MMA math? MMA
No, I
math.
haven't actually.
Yeah, MMA math basically means like, just like regular math. 2 plus 1, you put 1 on the 2, therefore it's 3. And no matter what you do, 2 plus 1 is always going to be 3, period. No matter what. I don't care what language you're talking, it's always going to be that. And MMA math is kind of the same thing. It's like, fighter A has great striking, fighter B has terrible striking defense, therefore there's a good chance fighter A is going to win. And that's how people look at it when big fights
But
are
it's
happening.
funny when it comes to especially MMA, the word chance
Exactly
is always thrown in there.
Exactly. The word math in MMA math has quotation marks, and it's like a running joke in the community. Like if you watch like the YouTube videos and shit, because you can boil down your MMA math like a conspiracy artist with your big whiteboard, and according to my calculations, so and so is gonna come out like this, boom, boom, boom. But it never happens like that, and that's why like it's such a great sport, and these like unexpected wins be happening. Fighter A should have won. How did that happen?
Point in case, Namajunas versus Weili Zhang.
Yeah.
Who the fuck thought that kick was going to come out? And she saw it. Because everybody saw it coming up. She saw it.
No.
But it surprised her so much that she fucking got stuck.
Even, bro, what about the 2 fights before that, or the 2 out of the 3 fights before that? Namajunas versus Joanna. Bro, I watched those fights with you. You completely wrote off Doug Rose in both fights, which she won, by the way. Oh, yes. In the stare down, she didn't look confident. Oh, she was looking down, and this and this, and she whooped her ass in both fights.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
You got to be real careful with MMA math, even if you apply a psychology degree on top of it. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to predicting fights, I'm going to agree with John. I think it's purely statistics, right? There are too many variables that aren't constants. They're just random. So you're never going to know what's going to happen. If I could go back really quick to your original question, if we could take a fighter's record or style and try to that you explaining the topic and talking now, I remember in The Ultimate Fighter, I don't know what season it was, there was a fighter called Jamie Yeager, right? He was a really tall, I think, African-American. He had an afro, really lean, always came out really confident, right? He would walk looking, with this angle, looking down on people, right? I think Tito Ortiz was his coach. And his first fight, he came out, he kicked his opponent like 3 times, and his opponent blocked every single one of them and still got rocked. That's how hard he was getting hit, right? The fight ended really, really, really quickly, and everybody's perception was this kid's going to go far, right? This person's going to go, he's confident, he's dangerous, he's powerful.
Never heard of him.
For a good reason, because the second he got clipped in, I think it was his next fight, the second his chin got touched, he lost it. All that confidence went out the window. All his poise went out. He was instantly afraid to go in again and try to engage with the opponent, and he lost. He lost it. He didn't get it. He didn't get far at all. So I think based on that, you could say things like, this person may have an egotistical trait in his personality because of the way they posture themselves, because of the way they talk about themselves, right? All this, there's a lot of
it could also be a mask.
That's what it is. So and when we diagnose people with traits of narcissism, typically it is a mask. It's like a shield, right? There is this shell of I'm so great, I'm wonderful. Look at, I deserve all this attention. I deserve what I'm the top at whatever it is that I'm doing. But beneath that is deep-seated insecurity. Very deep-seated insecurity, self-doubt, self-criticism. And it's a very, like, that facade is very, very frail. And you could take that metaphor and use it with that fight. The first punch he took to the chin, everything came crashing. His entire facade broke down.
He just completely
his true self came out within the fight.
So that reminded me. So yeah, I think we can dedicate.
So fight that kind of like comes into fight or flight. he was fronting a fight, but he was really a flight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
I
is
would
that
say
something that's something that we had said we wanted to touch up on? Are humans for lack of better words, right? Pre-wired for either fight or flight? Is it something that comes along during the transition of growth of the person, or is it something that can be obtained? It can be trained.
so. Fight or flight is basically an instinctive response. It's a physiological response. Our sympathetic nervous system will fire up at the perception of danger, right? And that's when our heart starts pumping faster, and we start getting sweaty. We start feeling heat. Our veins
Adrenaline
dilate.
and all that.
Adrenaline is released, and all that. Exactly. So it's a response that we typically, normally, all already have, right? We're pre-wired to have it, but I think it does depend on what you perceive as fear, right? So that is going to depend on someone's upbringing.
So wait, we're pre-wired for the adrenaline rush and all of that stuff at the moment of danger. Where it goes to is where it varies within the person.
Yes. So where it goes varies. For example, if I see a spider, I'm going to be inclined to run. I don't like spiders. I don't care how big it is. I don't care. I don't like spiders. I'm gonna have that response, and my reaction is gonna be.
So you don't like the shirt?
I like Spider-Man, right? I like the fiction. I don't like real Spider. So, yeah, I don't like them, and I've always ran away from them. That's been my initial response, right? Someone like my father would always have this other mentality, right? He would see when he didn't like them. It's not that he liked spiders, so I'm sure he felt a little apprehensive, but he would always go up to it and smash it with whatever he had in his hand, and say, I'm bigger than the spider. Who's whatever, right? So depending on a person's experience, I would say growing up, what the fear is, what the stimulus that they're fearing is, what their levels of resilience and tolerance to stress are going to determine whether or not they go into fight or flight.
Okay, but.
Yes.
Not to argue it. I'm not arguing it. I'm no one to argue it with somebody who's actually studying and working in the field, right? But I've rolled with you. I've sparred with you. I've rolled with you. I've grappled with you. And from what you tell me with the spider, you would think that you'd be inclined more towards the flight. But once again, I've done grappling with you. I've sparred with you. You're not the type to crumble when you're in a corner, you know what I mean? When things aren't going to your fight plan, how does that, how does that even work?
So that's the very specific.
It all depends on the stimulus,
on the stimulus,
type of stimulus that's given to.
That's being perceived by the person. So that very specific part is important. In psychology, a lot of the questions you're going to ask me now, my answers are going to be, well, that depends. Well, that depends, Joey. I'm going to be saying that a lot because psychology has a lot of variables, and that's what they've been teaching us ever since I was doing my bachelor's. Is there are so many variables concerned with these psychological concepts and terms that I can't give you a steady, stable response on a lot of these things. Because, like I said, you can react differently to a bear. Right, and then John's over here like John will go and hug a bear if he likes bears, right? Not knowing it's dangerous, probably go and hug it, right? I'm gonna run. You probably choose to fight, right? I'm gonna give you a hypothetical example, right? I think all of us will run from a bear.
I need a new coat.
I think it also depends on not just what you fear or what you look as something you conceive as dangerous, but it also depends if it's just a straight up phobia.
Let's not bash that other dude too bad. It's not easy, no matter who you are, getting decked in the fucking face.
No doubt. Yeah, but so if using Joel's example, how he feels about spiders, generalizing it a lot, to be honest, it could be anything from not caring, disgust, fear, and just straight up a phobia. And if you're at the extreme of it, where it's a phobia, it's just like all logical possible reactions and solutions completely fly out the window. Like that's when if Joel was at that level, he would be telling us a story of how he pulled out a shotgun on a daddy long legs, you know. But yeah, it just depends on how you perceive it and how you perceive it from 0 to 10, basically.
And what's happened in their past with the spiders,
right, yeah.
Or with whatever stimulus that's coming in.
Exactly.
Well,
it could even depend. Right, quick before we go to the next question.
yeah, go ahead.
It could even depend on how that person's feeling at that moment, because I could because of my exposure to spiders. Right, I live basically in mountain area. I have to deal. I think that's what you're gonna ask if we could train that, right? If that's where we were going.
That's eventually, but yeah,
eventually.
Something else I was gonna.
Well, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna adelantarme there. There are days where I'm not that afraid of spiders, is what I'm saying, right? It could depend on the mood. There are days where my resilience levels are on high, and I see one, and it's just like plop.
But makes sense, because if you're around banana trees, you're gonna be at least wary. You know what I mean? You're gonna be more aware than just around the house, because those of you who are watching who don't know, banana plants, we call them banana trees. They're really plants. They have like what's called a banana spider, and it loves to be around banana plants. And these are the most aggressive sons of bitches that could exist, just because you're near. You're nowhere near them or their nest. Just because you walk by and they will attack you. So it makes sense what you're saying, as far as it depends on because that's a variable.
Yep.
So you have la hormiguita loca that don't do absolutely anything, that can't even penetrate skin, and then you have these other
red ants, fire ants, and yeah. Okay.
So what happens in your past dictates how you're going to react to X or Y stimulus. Naturally, without training.
To a certain degree, yes.
Okay, so let's add on a little bit. When these fighters go gun shy, meaning they got knocked out in this fight, they're into the next fight, you know for a fact that they have the guy on the back foot. That other fighter, their opponent, is ready to get knocked out, and for some reason, he just can't pull that. He can't get close enough to actually do the damage to put the person out. Could that be part of a type of PTSD?
Okay.
Because he's traumatized by the knockout. It's like I forgot his name, but the dude that Edson Barbosa knocked out the first time with the spinning wheel kick. That he just kind of like caught a stiffy and went straight back. It was disgusting. It was beautiful, and it was disgusting. You know for a fact my man was having nightmares.
Yeah.
You know, and fighting any Brazilian that got good kicks, I know he was shitting himself. So would the act of going gun shy fall into like, you know, a part of like a slight PTSD or something? And can it be treated?
Depends, and yes. That's the order of the answers. Depends. Why? Because when we talk about diagnosis, you have to be able to identify the amount of criteria required to receive a diagnosis.
But how would you diagnose him before he even gets into the octagon and can't pull the trigger? Like, because since things vary so much, how can you pinpoint, okay, this guy's not ready to go out yet. This guy's not ready to fight yet. Or is that even possible?
Yeah, but that variable is different. That just means in order for me to diagnose, or any professional to diagnose someone, they have to be in treatment, right? So that's really up to the individual. They need to seek help if they think that they really need it, all right? Even if they don't think that they really need it, even if it's not a serious thing, they should, right? They determine whether or not they're going to receive a diagnosis because they have to seek that treatment. They need to seek that service, right? That's the first thing. We can't diagnose people who aren't our clients, and we are not supposed to be able to diagnose celebrities or give our too much of an opinion on something like, let's say, Donald Trump did, right? Medical or psychologists aren't supposed to.
Tiempo perdido para el equipo nacional.
Yeah.
you're not supposed to work on. Wait, so
Not
celebrities can't have psychologists?
No. What I meant was, my bad. I said that wrong. What I meant to say was, let me fix, is that they can have private services, they can have psychology. But let's say if you come to me describing this, right, this problem with that opponent that had some Barbosa kick the brakes off, right?
Right.
If that fighter were to come out and give an interview and say, I felt this, and they will give us like a list of symptoms, where someone like me who knows and studies the DSM would be like, yeah, that sounds like, I'm not supposed to, by ethics, I'm not supposed to go on social media and say this person seems to have this diagnosis. I can't. That's unethical. I think in Puerto Rico it's actually illegal, and I think in the States you can't do it. I forgot, or if it vice versa. One of us can't do it. I don't know.
Okay, so
I would assume it's like frowned upon, because like I've seen that a bunch of times, especially with Trump. It's like, oh, he's a classic narcissistic, this and this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
okay, hold on. Let me because this is really interesting. Okay, so confidentiality, right? There's the huge thing, and thank goodness is there. Okay, yes. But question, so under law, can the psychologist even tell because the psychologist doesn't run the fights? You see what I'm saying? So let's say right now UFC was about to get a whole team of psychologists to work with these fighters. You know what I'm saying? Can they even tell Dana whether or not this person is ready to fight or not because of the confidentiality? Or is there like a paper or some type of agreement? You can divulge information of this patient up to here.
Yeah, that exists. In my practice, the form is literally called that. It's document to divulge information. It's actually that. And in the interview, you fill it out, right? The participant fills it out, and that's when they give you permission who the clinic could give information out to, whether it's their job, whether it's their child's school, whether it's nobody, whether it's a family member, and what way they could give it out, if it's on paper, if it's through the phone, if it's through a letter. The date is very limited, right? It's usually like what days they went into therapy. But in this case, if that athlete were to give explicit consent, right? Sure, I could go and the psychologist could go tell Dana this person's not ready yet. I probably can't say why. I shouldn't give details about treatment specifically. Mm-hmm. But I can say
what would an evaluation like that look like? If you can, divulge that information. Like what is it that you would be looking for? What tools would you be using?
Well, man, there are a lot of standardized.
And you know what? And also, since we're on that, is there anything that are there any tools that a person can use? Because eventually I want to tie this in with everybody is a fighter in one way or another. Mm-hmm. And how combat training does help you in your personal life, with your mental, with your emotional, and with your physical. So what tools, it doesn't have to be right now, but I would like to get into that. What tools would a person be able to use to help themselves push forward more? Because as people who train fighting, as all three of us do, we're always pushing. Mm-hmm. We don't know what it is not to push. Embrace the grind. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they say in AKA, that's how it is. Problems in life are just there to help you level up. Without those, you're still stuck on the last level. That's the mentality I've been trying to push forward with, and it's helping. So what tools would you use, one, to evaluate a fighter? And out of those evaluations, what is it that we as just normal Joes can use?
Okay, to evaluate a fighter, let's say to see if they could go out and fight again, they go out and do their job, their livelihood, right? Anything from self-report, right, can be used.
What do you mean?
So self-report is whatever the my client is telling me. It's my job to take it as seriously as I can, right? Of course, if things sound a little too fictitious, then I can question and try to find the validity in it. But anything from self-report, right? I'm gonna start doing a little checklist of symptoms that I could see, or whatever clinical observations I could have as well. Did the person come in on time? Did the person come in with a certain posture? Were they crying in session, or were their eyes getting watery? Were they too active, or weren't physically active enough during the session? Right? You have people who have adequate posture. You have people who are typically anxious. They either lean forward, or their legs are moving a lot, or they can't sit still. You have people who are severely depressed that will look like a mannequin. Like they'll just slouch down and they won't move, right? Because they don't want to. They don't feel like they have that energy, right? Are they reporting low levels of energy? Are they reporting constant fears, even in absence of a fearful stimulus? Right, those are typically symptoms of anxiety. Are they reporting thoughts of self-doubt, self-defeat, too much criticism towards themselves? Are they catastrophizing daily events, daily mistakes? Like, oh, I dropped a cup the other day, and I wanted to die. Right, and it's like, okay, well, I have to write that down, because normally a person wouldn't get that emotional to dropping a cup. Right, so there's something else going on in that. You take all that self-report and clinical observations. Tools, there are so many.
So just throwing this in real quick.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor is starting beef with that bullshit rapper dude just because he didn't want to take a picture with him. That would be a red flag.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to. It's an MMA episode. I have to throw it in there.
I mean, I'm not a psychology student, but I saw it as a red flag. I saw it as a huge red flag, to be honest.
So out of that you're looking for, how? I'm not trying to tell you to tell us your craft and all of your techniques or tools.
Tools of the
But
trade.
what can we do other than writing a journal? I've been to a psychiatrist, I've been to a psychologist, and the only thing worse than the pills that they try to force on you is writing a fucking journal, dude. Because sometimes your problem is that you can't get away from your thoughts, and just writing them down brings them right back into
exasperate.
Like as a coach, you will never tell you will never remind right before the fight. You will never remind your athlete of the last time. Remember, keep your hands up, because that's how they knocked you out the fucking last time. No,
why would you say that?
It doesn't give for good coaching, And I figure if a person is going through that self-analytical moment, they are coaching themselves. So how would we go across it?
Well, what can we use as the average Joe, right?
Well, does it vary once again from person to person?
Of course it does. It does. It depends.
I was expecting you to say, well, it depends.
Depends. It does. It does depend. But fortunately, I think I could give a pretty broad topic or a broad tool. My favorite theories or treatment plans are those that are rooted in CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. We've talked about this. And
but we've spoken about this.
Yeah.
I don't think the fans have and people watching. So
yeah. I mean,
Joey and I have talked about this. Whenever I go into psychology and theories and treatment plans, I go for cognitive behavioral therapies. What I'm most comfortable with is what I've evaluated to be, I think, one of the most efficient. I mean, it is one of the most empirically efficient methods of treatment in psychology. I just like the idea behind it. So what does cognitive behavioral therapy do? Right? Well, we try to change the relationship we have with our thoughts, right? We try to identify any patterns of thoughts that are what we will say distorted. And by distorted, I don't mean to invalidate, right, a negative thought or anything. I mean thoughts that can be rooted with either lack of information or misinterpretation of the information at hand, right?
So real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. So can I say those who don't do exercise and get themselves in shape because, oh, I'm too overweight or I'm too old or I'm too weak, they fall under that?
That could be definitely distorted thinking, right?
Message.
Yeah, that could,
Go ahead.
that could be distorted thinking, right? The typical response to that is, who told you you're too obese? Right? Who told you that?
Yeah, that's
And
like
then
that's such a Latino
Well,
thing too. Like, you
in
can't be
my
able.
experience as a trainer and coach, a lot of these times it's the person that puts the limit on themselves.
yeah.
Well,
happens.
because you'll ask about, well, who called you fat? Who called you this? Well, nobody, but look at me.
Exactly.
I see somebody strong. I see somebody who can do it.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
No, but that's a perfect example of classic distorted thinking, right? That's one of the questions that we typically ask when we confront our patients. Who told you that? What, can you give me a? I mean, not like that, right? I can't say like with that attitude.
Who the fuck told you that shit?
I'd say, oh well, I guess could you describe a moment where this happened, right? Where someone said that, right? And a lot of them come up short. They come up short, and because it's their own self-criticism and their own self-thought. So, step by step, what do we do? What is it that we can start as average Joes? Read up and try to learn what a cognitive distortion is, right? Which is a misinformed thought, typically lacking information. You would try to learn. You could get a list of 1 page of just what the distortions are and how they look. It's not complicated. It's not overly complicated. It's fairly simple. Identify that. Make a table. Here's where we go with the application part. Make a table, not a journal. Don't write a journal. Make a table. You identify a situation that made you feel like crap, right? I got a bad grade, so therefore, I started to feel bad. Okay, you started to feel bad. Write down the situation, then write down the automatic thought that came to your head. I got a bad grade, therefore I'm a bad student. Okay, well, then try to debate it based on evidence. What's the rest of your report card look like? Oh, I'm either a straight A student or I'm a 3.90 grade point average. Then does the statement, I had a bad grade, therefore I'm a bad student, hold up with evidence? Does it? Is it really a fair statement to make? No. Okay, then you start challenging your own thoughts, and then you replace them with more functional evidence-based ones. Not positive necessarily. I'm not trying to say everything's happy, everything's good. No, I'm not trying to say that either, because situations suck, and certain circumstances you just can't get around. That's a fact. But you try to base that new thought, that replacement thought that you're going to start practicing in your head based on evidence. No, I'm not a bad student because of my 1 bad grade. I am a 3.90 average student, right? And you start practicing that. And it's simple. That's just debating thoughts.
Now, when it comes to fighters, would that work on its own, or would that do? I mean, I imagine it does better if you do it in conjunction with the actual training of. You know what I mean? Your jab is fabulous. Your jab is fabulous. No, I didn't knock this dude out with the jab. It's okay. But look how fabulous it is, and look how fast it's getting. Let's train it a bit more. So when you train it, when you actually do towards a goal, it's better than just saying, okay, you haven't reached your goal yet, but it's okay. You have to put the work in.
Yeah, you have to put the work in. That I will never tell a participant, this table that I'm showing you and this little process that I'm showing you is going to be magic. And as long as you do this every week, you'll be fine. No, you have to do it. If you're not doing it every day or every other day, whether it's possible within, what's possible, you have to keep creating the evidence, right? Needed with your behavior. You need to keep creating evidence to be able to debate those thoughts on.
Right.
Which in a fighter or in somebody who's training's case, actually training.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into this, because it falls into this question right here. Can we agree that martial arts training does help the mind?
Depends, but yes.
It depends. Once again.
Depends once again. Yeah.
I know from a personal perspective, it does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've trained with you guys, and I've trained you guys, so I know by just looking at you guys, yes, it does work. But this is my question. How is it that it can be so effective even though it purposely puts you into really stressful situations. You know what I'm saying? Your mental state is trying to avoid situations, yet you feel better after you put yourself through a worse situation, because now it's mental, emotional, and physical. Where is it that how is it that doing worse actually helps you get better?
Okay.
Because I mean, when you train hard, you guys have trained me. When you train, you train. My brother Gorlo has literally gotten to the gym or to wherever we were training and be like, look, today I'm leaving after I puke. And work until he fucking pukes, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I'm one that's like, man, until I can't lift my arms, let's go 100 more punches. Let's go 200 more. You know what I mean? I'm constantly putting myself under really stressful fucking situations to a verge of a panic attack. And that's what I'm trying to learn how to deal with. My panic attacks, getting away from the panic attacks. And what's helped me is almost fucking triggering them. How is it that this is actually working up in here?
Okay. Put a pin on the panic attack part.
Okay.
As a specific situation that we could talk about a little later. But okay, how does working out, how does exercising, or how do martial arts help us get better when it comes to our mood, improve everything? So from a biological point, and I'm not an expert on biology, but from the biological point, if I'm not mistaken,
the
endorphins, and there's other hormones and neurotransmitters released when we do physical activity. Within 5 minutes of working out, you could actually start feeling a difference depending on what your mood is at the moment. Mm-hmm. And it's been demonstrated that exercise is a good way, or a good tool to use for patients who are severely depressed. They fall into patients that are severely depressed have in common lack of movement or excessively sedentary lifestyle. So being able
let me interject really quick and very proudly. Wing Chun Kali systems pulled me out of depression.
Yeah. Good. That's what's up. What's up. And let's go into those variables aside from the biological part, right? Aside from being able to move again. Right, in your particular story, aside from those endorphins that are being released, aside from all those other feel-good neurotransmitters and hormones being released, right? When we go into the psychological part, what is being created is a lot of discipline, right? There's a lot of discipline being created. There's goal setting, and when you reach those goals, we also feel good, right? Because that's the creating evidence. That's evidence-based to whatever distorted thinking you had before that had you feeling bad. You mm-hmm. go from a person who typically has a lot of self-doubt, go to a person that said, I can do it if I work for it. Here's the proof. Here's the physical proof. I can do it. I can do a push-up, right? Mm-hmm. When I wasn't even able to hold a plank. I can start doing pull-ups when I wasn't even able to hold myself on the bar for 30 seconds, right? So the prospect of having progress and seeing it, whether it's martial arts, bodybuilding, calisthenics, whatever type of cardio, whatever activity it is, having a goal and seeing progress with the work that you're putting in makes us feel better as well. Again, it's evidence to tell us we are capable, right? Stressful situations. I'm gonna change that maybe to anxiety-inducing situations, but stress counts as well. So if we don't have enough tolerance to stress, or if we're being overtaken by our anxiety, what is it that we do to try to fix that, right? Aside from debating thoughts and working towards a goal, exposure. One of the best treatments to specifically anxiety is gradual exposure, combined with other techniques as well, but gradual exposure. So you have someone who has a phobia, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about me, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about you. The spiders. I'm talking years ago, I would freak out if I saw one of those mountain spiders or the banana spiders. Just freak out, like tears in my eyes, and run away, and I wouldn't be able to sleep well because it was close to my room, right? Like I'm not going to sleep now, right?
Yeah, in your head, it learns how to pick a lock, and it's coming in for you.
Yeah. I'm coming, Joel. The catastrophization is real. It's like this thing is gonna crawl up my nose while I'm sleeping, and I'm gonna die. Like it's ridiculous, right? But that's anxious thinking can get to that point.
Yes.
So I didn't really have a progressive exposure to it. Spiders came and went whenever they want here, right? Depending on if it rains too much, if
It's the mountains,
yeah, spider season, not spider season, whatever the variable would be, right? So through that exposure, I built a tolerance to it now. So now I'm able to think a little more clearly, right? With all those spiders that I've seen, I have evidence. How many of these spiders have actually bit me? I'm 27. I've never gotten bitten by a spider.
Thank you, stars. That shit hurts.
Good. No, I don't want them. I don't want to know. How many of these spiders have a probability of being, like very, really venomous? Right. I did some research a couple of years ago in Puerto Rico. There aren't really that many. They are, but there aren't that many. How many times have I killed a spider and lived to tell the tale? This whole time. Right. So the evidence has been there. I still get scared when I see a spider. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's particularly the big ones. But it's gotten to a point where if I see a medium spider, those flat ones that are really fast and they skitter really fast. If I can sleep in my room knowing there's one in the wall and I can see it, like, oh, okay, well, it's there. It's gonna eat ants and I'm gonna be fine because those things have never done anything to me ever. I've gotten to that point, and that's only based on that. That's not even doing things a therapeutic way, week by week. Being gradually exposed, raising the intensity of the exposure, using muscle relaxation, using breathing techniques and mindfulness, none of that. Just having that stimulus there. That's how martial arts can help us. Right? That's how martial arts can help us. When you're having your panic attacks, right? Or when you're getting close to that and you're recognizing I'm getting this, I'm getting the symptoms. It's coming. It's coming. You to a certain degree, one of the thoughts that might pop into your head is I'm gonna die. I mean, that's one of the panic attack staple thoughts. It's recorded in the literature. Feelings of death, of imminent death.
Yeah. Yes.
And no one to this day has actually died of a panic attack. Panic attack, from what I understand, biologically can't kill you unless you have the most absurd underlying medical conditions, and I think that happened once in history.
Wow.
Recorded at least. You start exposing yourself to that symptom, and that your heart is going a little crazier than you want it to be. And I'm starting to feel.
So let me ask you this: Would exposure be, because I'm only going to mention this because a lot of people have been mentioning it in the MMA world, hypnosis? Would the exposure be a better way of helping the fighter push through whatever than hypnosis?
Well,
it depends.
I think it depends. Yeah, if you could combine it, right? You can combine.
All right, listen. The next time Joel comes to a podcast, if his name tag thingy on the corner doesn't say Joel Depends Munoz, I'm just fucking leaving. I'm out.
If it's not about psychology, I won't do it. But if it is, I will.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Hold me to that. So hypnosis is another technique, right? What we do, hypnosis is like it's
explain to people. It doesn't work like it does in the movies. You're a turtle, and that's it. They walk around trying to find their shell.
Yeah, no, it's not like that, right? What hypnosis is, I'm gonna get a definition by the APA. It's a procedure to induce a state in which suggestion is used to evoke changes in sensation, perception, cognition, emotion, or control over motor behavior, right? People, when they're under hypnosis, they tend to be more receptive, right? Depending on their degree of receptivity. They could be receptive to suggestions to act or feel or behave differently than ordinarily they would. But again, not to the degree where I'm gonna
it doesn't make them do it. It just suggests it.
It just opens them more to that suggestion. Exactly.
So if you're hypnotizing them for them to, let's say, like something that they hate, they won't hate it anymore. They won't like it. They'll dislike it still, but at least it won't be a hate.
Yeah,
something like that. So it won't change their perspective. Just
it might open them to think about that stimulus differently.
Because I mean,
Slowly.
the word within fighting, the word hypnosis has. Whenever you talk about Cus D'Amato and Mike Tyson, hypnosis comes out in the fucking conversation, because that was the word that Cus D'Amato used. That those that were around Mike and Cus said that Cus hypnotized him. But what he would do is, because we had spoken about this, I think it was last week, he suggested a lot of things. You're an animal. You got to crush them. There is no defeat. You don't know quit, blah, 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 blah. That's not really hypnotizing the person to where he comes out like fucking Hulk and nothing can touch him, because look what Buster Douglas did to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So again, I wouldn't know when we were talking about it. I mentioned I don't know what he did to use that word hypnosis, right? I don't know if he was waving a little clock in front of him or making him actually sit down, relax, close your eyes, breathe, do all these things that you normally would do. I don't know if he was eliciting a state of an altered state of consciousness. That's what it is. It's a very relaxed state where you're more receptive to suggestions like that, right? If he was just there, from what I hear, he was just hyping him up. That's what he was doing. He was just hyping him up. Sure. Let's go. Like, he could have gotten the same results by just saying, let's go, you got this, slapping him on the traps 2 times, making him, smell ammonium or whatever, and ammonia, and go upon his day. So I don't think that's what hypnosis was.
But he's still not messing. Let me not say messing, but he's still altering the psychological state of the person.
If he's hyping them up, sure.
Right? If you're amping a person up.
Yeah. But hypnosis is a specific state of mind. It promotes focus. It's a relaxed state that promotes focus and receptibility.
Really? So it won't provoke anything else. It's something specific.
It
depends.
What do you want me to do? You want me to come out and change my name now? You want me to change it now? I'll change it now. So
I was about to be like, we should start a drinking game where you take a shot every time Joel says,
"Oh my goodness, I'd be on."
We're gonna straight up alcohol poisoning, bro. Like, we're gonna die.
We all go to hospital.
A lot of people use them. Names: Khalil Roundtree, Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard had a said by him, he had a second personality.
I've heard.
He had to be in a specific mental state. Apparently, in an interview, he said he always had a mirror, and I remember seeing old footage. He always had a mirror in the back, and he would, boom, shadow box and all that, and he'd look at himself, and he said if he saw Sugar Ray looking back at him, he knew he was going to have a fantastic night. If he saw Ray Leonard looking back at him, things could go wrong.
Okay.
So Iron Mike, apparently that's not his nickname. That is his alter ego. I think Hagler had one. There are quite a few boxers that will put themselves in a mental state. One of them is Silva, Anderson Silva. That's my dude. That's the GOAT. There can only be one GOAT. One greatest means one, not plural, singular. There can only be one, and that's Anderson for now. You know what I'm saying? I understand Anderson, after he broke his leg, needing something mentally to help him out, because I ripped up my toe, 3 years ago? And now is when I can start kicking it like, fuck this. You know what I mean? You just throwing it out there. Whatever happens, happens. How can you help a fighter past that? And it's I believe it's a question that's more than for fighters. Because I'm sure those who are watching us out there, who will watch us in the future, everybody's going through some shit. Everybody has their own issues. That issue is your broken leg. And sometimes you have your guard up so much that you won't even go that route anymore because you're afraid of hurting your leg. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So since martial arts and life is to me is the same thing. It could be because it's already part of me. How could you help a fighter? What tool can help the fighter? And once again, help your average Joe push forward when it comes to stuff like that?
You have to learn to accept. I think acceptance. There's a separate uh, model of treatment called ACT, which is acceptance and compromise therapy.
Okay.
Because that's how important the term acceptance is within psychology. That there's a whole ass treatment theory based on teaching people how to learn to accept things. That's how important. That's how difficult it makes it. It is. We probably wouldn't think it is because we use that word pretty constantly. Accept it or deal with it or you have to. You have to understand it. You have to accept it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the cherry on top when it comes to the grieving process. Like it's like, if I'm not mistaken, it's the last step, isn't it? Like you go through your anger, you go through your negotiation. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, negotiation and
Exactamente. And acceptance is the cherry on top. That's when you're done, como quien dice. But yeah.
It's very different, very difficult. Sorry, to get to that acceptance because acceptance. A lot of people think acceptance is complacency.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people go through that and think they've accepted something, but they haven't. They've just.
I am guilty. I used to believe that me accepting something is the same thing as tapping out.
Exactly, and it's not. It's not by any means. So accepting is basically coming to terms, understanding that what has happened, right? Whatever it is that you're accepting has happened. You're not defined by it. You don't have to live by it. What you could do is learn from it, and that's it. You have to move. You start moving on. You start moving on, understanding that it happened, right? And giving yourself the space to feel a way about it too, right? It isn't just I'm apathetic towards it. That doesn't work. It's not. It's leaving yourself that space to say I felt like shit when this happened, and I still feel some kind of way. But hey, I'm working on it. That's acceptance.
So giving yourself some emotional slack, almost.
Yeah, cutting yourself a break.
Yeah, it makes. Let's put it in layman's fighters terms. I was thinking of life as jujitsu. When you tap, you tap. Let's start something completely different. Rather than Wing Chun, wait a minute, if I can't come in here, I'm going to turn. I'm going to take this angle. Well, no puedo acá, pues me voy por acá. I can't over here, I'm going to go in here. Always looking, but the goal is always the same.
Yeah. So the first part is the acceptance, right? I can't make an entrance. This guy's his out striking is just too good. And he has his left side guarded way too much. I can't go there. That's okay. That's fine. I don't have to go there. I don't need what's telling me that I need to go there. Here comes the compromise, acceptance and compromise. Was it? Yeah. Here comes the compromise. I'm gonna go to the right. I'm gonna start walking to the right. I'm gonna start looking for.
Well, we spoke about I think we had an episode a couple of months back on want and need, and that kind of falls. Do I need to do this or do I want to do this? And what is it that's pushing me to want to do this so I can put it aside and only get what I need to get done?
Yeah, that's a big part of cognitive behavioral therapy as well. Identifying wants and needs. Defining them.
Towards the end of this, I'm gonna open it up and try to answer as many questions that are in the comments, and I'm gonna send out a link so some of you guys can come on and actually talk virtually face to face with with Joel and ask him your questions. Before we get to that, all right, we had spoken the last time about this word, aggression.
Yes.
Okay, and how wanting to push forward or being bullheaded can be a good thing, cannot be a good thing. Aggression is not the same as violent. It can be good. Once again, everything depends.
Yes, it does.
Can you talk a little bit on that, on aggression and what would be a good word or a good way to use that headstrong fighter mentality to push forward, not just in competition, but also in life? I'm going to excuse myself for just 10 seconds, guys. Go ahead.
All right, no problem. Let me bring up my reading material. This part is very, very well defined. I prepared this beforehand. So yeah, once again, it depends. I'm not going to apologize for that. You're going to have to deal with it.
You should.
So it depends on the context that we're speaking about, and I prepared definitions based on the context of sport, right? Sport specifically. So aggression is defined as inflicting aversive stimulus, whether it be physical, verbal, gestural, upon someone else, right? Slap can be aggression. Shouting at someone can be aggression. Flipping someone off can be a sign of right. Could be an aggressive statement.
Or gesture, yeah.
Or because of the gesture, right? So
Mhm.
aggression is not an attitude. Aggression is strictly the behavior. Okay, flipping people off, that's aggression, not the intent, not whatever. Flipping people off is the aggression, right? Or trying to intimidate them, or screaming, cursing, whatever.
Mhm.
It does reflect an acts to
Okay, so hold on. Flipping people off is okay?
No, it's aggression.
Oh.
It's aggressive. I mean, yeah, sure, it's fine. Again, context. So, verbal abuse or verbal, a lot of talk, a lot of insults, all that could be aggressive behavior, including the physical part. The intent is to harm, basically. In sport,
You need it.
you could define it. Yeah, you could define two different types of aggression, right? There's the hostile aggression. Hostile aggression, here's where the intent comes in. Here's where we actually put intent to the definition. If your primary focus for that act was to hurt someone else, that's hostile aggression. If all you get out of that interaction is hurting the other person, that's hostile aggression. Okay? So the major reinforcement is the achievement of just hurting that person, whether it be verbally, physically, or mentally. Okay? That's hostile aggression. Now, if your aggression has another purpose behind it, like let's say classic in MMA, if I want to win, right? Punching my opponent and not getting punched is gonna let me win. I'm gonna cut a fat paycheck. I'm gonna feed my family, get more fights. That's how the game goes. That's my job. That's instrumental aggression. There are the two differences. So hostile aggression is when you just want to hurt someone.
Mm-hmm.
Instrumental aggression, you have another goal behind that, and that aggressive behavior is the key to getting that goal. When it comes to violence,
let me see if because I'm trying to make a connection between everything that we say about fighting and normal everyday life that you could find.
Yeah.
There's a difference between exercising and getting in shape for your health and for yourself, be it physical health or mental health or emotional health, and getting in shape to get back at an ex or something like that. Sure. Or these people keep messing with me, so I'm gonna get cock diesel. So when I walk by the corner, they don't fuck with me, or they look the other way, or right?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what it is. So, if I,
in other words, message people out there: do it for you.
Yes, do it for you. Don't pay too much attention to the external, right, and the other variables.
And that includes society, right? That includes society.
Yeah. Exactly. You don't want to fall into the norms, right? The expectancies, right? That could cause a lot of anxiety. So, aggression is the act of harming other people. It's just the behavior. Instrumental aggression is when you have a goal behind that, and hostile is when the whole purpose is just to hurt the person. Violence. Why is it different from violence? Violence refers specifically to the physical opponent. It's exclusively the physical opponent of a component of aggression. It's defined as harm-inducing behavior bearing direct relationship to the competitive goals of sport, and relates therefore to incidents of uncontrolled aggression outside the rules of sport, rather than highly competitive behavior. So, violence is it's similar to hostile aggression.
High and Gracie.
Yeah, except it's not part of this. If we're talking about sports, it's not part of the sport at all. Like, there's no rules. You're kicking people in the balls at this point in a UFC match.
Okay.
Like, that's not even hostile aggression. At that point, you're breaking rules. That's just violence. You're straight up harming this person outside of what the rules are.
Yeah.
Okay. So
aggression, well utilized, is a tool.
Yes.
Okay. Should people, if you say no, I'm kind of screwed, because this is the way I train my athletes, you know what I mean? But in certain people, I actually look for that. Mm-hmm. You're one of them. When I met you, the world was going to fucking chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unfortunately, I can't use names or anything like that, but I taught in elementary school, and I have this one athlete that's just, you know exactly who I'm talking about. This kid used to get bullied.
Yeah.
And I had to obligate the 5th graders to roll with him by the end of the classes, you know, by the end of the time that I was giving the classes. He's in 3rd grade. I had to obligate 5th graders, kids that were twice his size, obligate them to roll with him. And it wasn't that he was a violent, aggressive person. You know, it's just he would really get into it. You know, so I can, as a trainer, I can see how it's useful, but also as a trainer, I know how to pull it out and up to where the limits are. So it won't develop into a hostile aggression. What do you recommend for those who need to be a little less nice? And it's not even be less nice. It's stand up for yourself, stand up for what you believe in, stand up and get to the goals that you need to get to.
Well, I would use a completely different term to aggression and violence. I would use assertiveness.
Assertiveness, okay.
Assertiveness. So assertiveness is being able to, what you just said, just put that into what I'm about to say. Assertiveness is being able to express your needs and your wants in a steady and firm way without being aggressive and without being stepped over. It's that nice happy medium where I'm telling you what I need. I'm behaving in a way that I have to behave in order to get what I need. I'm still open to your needs and wants if that's, you know, if you're open to it as well.
That's very important because I've known of people like, okay, I need to change the way I am, and they become total dicks.
That's aggressive.
You know, and I've done it. I've done it myself. I'm guilty of it. You know what I mean? You get to a point where you're like, you know what? Just fuck everybody.
I think we all are. Yeah, right.
That's not what we're looking for, right?
So it's basically, would you say it's like imposing your will, but not so much as a dictator, but more as a diplomat? Like, yo, this is me. This is what I want. But
well, if you're diplomatic, then it's not just your will, right? Mm-hmm. By definition.
Yeah. Well, in assertiveness, you don't have to. At least in assertive communication, you're not necessarily trying to impose anything. Mm-hmm. You're just letting the person know what you need, and that's it. You're gonna get you're gonna have to behave in the way you want. I have an example. If I'm on the phone and Joey needs to use my phone and I'm on a very important call and he's like, you need to give me the phone now because I want to make a call. If I were to be assertive, I'm like, Joey, I'm going to give you the phone when I'm done with the phone call because right now I'm in a very important call. I'm going to. Not give me a minute, that's submissive. Not fuck off before I make you swallow a tooth. That's aggressive. Right. That's aggressive. And then assertive is, hold on, I'm going to finish this call, and once the call is done, I'll be able to give you the phone because I understand.
Which is what a lot of parents should be doing with their kids.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
Be assertive. It's not just about whipping their ass. I mean, if a kid needs an ass whipping, give it to him. Fuck him.
Sure. Give him two. Fuck it.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they have to be assertive. There's too much. These youngsters have so many rights and most of them don't even know how to spell rights. You know what I'm saying? That is just, and it's because they're not being assertive. You know, fuck it, I'll say their name because they can kiss my ass. I used to work in Kroger, and these ladies would come in with their kids. Listen, so and so, I need you to stay here. Fuck off, mom. Let me tell you something. Y'all have met my mom. My mom's a sweet lady, and I'm 45 years old. If I look at my mom's face and go, "Fuck off, mom," I'm spitting out teeth, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because my parents were assertive with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there has to be a moment in everybody's life where you're assertive with whatever's around you. Could it be that when you don't release that assertiveness that's naturally inside of us, that's when the aggression builds up?
It could be. I think aggression could come out.
Don't say depends. Don't say
no. I'm good.
It varies.
Aha. Thank you.
I'm gonna text them synonyms and shit right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna be ready next time. No, I don't think aggression can form that way, because if you said assertiveness that's already natural to us, it's gonna come out, right? It's gonna come out. You would try to foster the tools or develop the tools to express that clearly, assertively, steadily, and still considerately. There's consideration and assertiveness when it comes to communication.
Well, how about in an example where, like, you know, you're submissive and you're constantly being, you know, bullied, let's say, whatever. You're constantly being bothered and bullied and put in a negative mindset.
Well, being bullied and being submissive are two totally different things.
No doubt, but you're reacting.
Being submissive, you don't want to do anything about it. Being bullied, you can't do anything about it.
Okay, well, fine.
Because I was bullied, and I'm the farthest thing from fucking submissive.
No doubt.
And the second I was able to handle my own, it was a different fucking story.
All right, so in that context, rephrasing my question, what if you're constantly put in uncomfortable, awkward, and embarrassing situations, and you react in a submissive way every time, until one day, all that negativity that's built up, you just explode and just like, yeah, fuck you, and you're just super aggressive or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's common. I think that's a common occurrence, and that's the point of learning how to express yourself assertively and let your needs known in a respectful yet solid way, right?
Because to not get to that point in the first place, right?
Exactly. So you don't get to a point where, you know, there's no more diplomacy. There's no more respect. There's no more being civil right now. It's gonna be a boiling point. Right.
Yeah,
and then if you have if you see anger, let's say anger as a thermometer, you don't want to get to all the way from 1 to 10, like a scale of 1 to 10. You don't want to get to 10, because once you've gotten to 10, there's no going back until you release all that energy.
Yep.
Okay, so out of all the things that we've spoken about, clinically speaking, what would be the best mental health that a fighter could or should have coming into competition?
Best mental health.
Because, I mean, a lot of people just say, just keep calm. Just keep calm. And, okay, psychology, psych, comes from, I forgot the exact Greek word, but it comes from breath.
Yeah.
To breathe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's there. You breathe, you calm down, but there are more things going. Not everybody can calm their mind by just breathing, by just doing yoga. In my case, I have to do really aggressive, training, heavy weights or something like that in order to be able to shut everything off. What would the 100% peak performance of a fighter's psychology look like? Don't say depends.
It varies.
I can't wait to see you again. Cuando nosotros jodiemos, when we roll again, it's on.
But listen, it varies. Why does it vary? Because your peak isn't going to look the same as John's peak. It isn't going to look the same as my peak, and different techniques are going to work differently, right? So you need to expend a lot of energy to bring your thoughts down and to control them, right? I don't need to do that. I can just straight up give me 5 minutes and I'll breathe and maybe I'll go through imagery technique. Like imagery is when you sit down and you imagine yourself doing the technique over and over and over and over and over and over. You might imagine the outcome. You imagine different details of a technique, right? That's imagery. I could do that, right? John, if you could share what you do to calm down. I don't know if you're like Joey, or if you're like
yeah, pretty much closer to you. I can when it comes to calming down, I just need to manually shut everything off. Just breathe. Just put the problem to the side for a second. Just breathe, calm down. Just tell myself, this is something you can control, so work on that solution, or you can't control it, so you're gonna have to deal with it this way. And just bring myself back to reality and get myself out of that realm of everything is on fire. And once I bring it down a little bit, that problem that was to the side, I can come back to it and just be like, okay, let's fix this, deal with this, whatever. But yeah.
So John is good at grounding. John is good at saying, I need to focus on this now and whatever it is that goes through his head for him to do that, he does it. Right. So like, that's going to depend on a fighter's, I guess you could say either temper or just personality traits in general, their general personality. What is it that they need? Does a fighter need to come in calm? Right? Does their fighting style depend on them being
pause?
calm?
Don't forget that those who are watching, though we say fighters, combatants, I don't know if you guys have noticed, you guys can put yourselves in the same situation. Instead of fighters, so-and-so, Bob, Teresa, you know what I mean? You guys can put yourself in the same position because it does work. If it works to avoid you getting punched in the face, I think it'll work to help you a bit working retail or dealing with, well, no, nothing prepares you for dealing with kids. But you can put yourselves in the position of the fighter, and all of these things will work for you because life is a championship bout, and you got to be in it to win it. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah. So no, but I think I said it. I think I got the point across. What does a peak, right? What is a peak mental state for an MMA fighter or for us fighters in general, right? Your daily person that works at Subway, the librarian, it depends on, or it varies on who you are as a person, your temperament, what you need to be in a state of focus. So some people go in hype, right? They come in aggressive and me mugging everybody when they come walking down the to the ring or to the octagon. Other people go in walking normal. They're going easy. They're going soft. They're warmed up. Don't get me wrong. Like, the body has to be warmed up. They don't want to destroy a tendon, but but they come. Their state is more a relaxed state versus other people who might be in a more hyperactive state.
Which is a difficult thing to do, considering that for a fact this person is trying to kick your fucking head off.
Yeah, it is. I guess it works for somebody. Has to come in there like calm and it works for them.
Okay, so what would you recommend to somebody who's, like we had spoken before, I want to do this, but look at my condition, or look at my age, or look at my weight, or I can take a podcast and show pictures of my toe and all that other shit, you know what I'm saying? But for some reason people think I'm a freak of nature. Mm-hmm. That it's some healing mutant factor or whatever, you know what I mean? So what do you recommend to people, you know what I mean, so they can get that extra push to move forward? Because yes, I do understand working out by yourself is difficult. You need extra motivation. I learned how to find mine. Not everybody can find theirs. So what would you tell people to do in order to find the motivation for them to push forward?
Man, they have to define why they want to do it in the first place, why it's a goal for them. They have to have that solid, because if it's just, maybe I want to look a different way. How do you want to look a different way? Do you want to look slimmer, more muscular? Do you want to look whiter? Do you want to look, what is it? If you want
to look, let's use the word look. If you want to look a certain way, unless you walk around constantly with a mirror, you're doing it for someone else. Unless you have, which is a real thing, ugly duckling syndrome.
Yeah, but I agree. I like to say, right, it's automatic. I lift weights. I like to say, I like lifting weights. For me, I like being strong, which I do. I do like lifting a couple of 100 pounds off the ground and doing it relatively comfortably. Of course I do. But I also like the looks I get when I walk into a room, right? Some people look and they're like, oh, look at this guy. I like that. I like that as well. It doesn't hurt the chances with the ladies, right? Define the goal as specifically as you can, right? Make sure that it's something that you're going to deem worth it, because if you don't think it's worth it, you're not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And work on the discipline. Motivation is very tricky. Motivation can burn out, but once you build discipline, it's really hard to get out of it.
Because you create a habit.
You create that habit.
Once again, you're working with the mind before you work with the body, or is it happening at the same time?
You could say it starts here first, right?
Yeah.
We don't make a movement.
I know it starts here, and it's mostly this, but with the systems that we work in, You know what I mean? We want everything to be muscle memory. So I personally try to keep my brain out of it. Yes, I'm playing chess, but it's my body playing it. It's not my head. Because the second you start thinking too much in combat, you're a step behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to reach muscle memory, you have to drill first. And in order for you to drill first, you have to think, where do I position myself for this to be correct? You're thinking first. So it starts off here, right? Then eventually your body is going to get used to it. It's not how we brush our teeth every morning, right? We don't wake up and say, I have to brush my teeth. Both of us don't, right?
Now, this probably has to do more with neurology than anything, but how can we speed up the connections between, let's say, our hand and our brain?
I owe you that one. Speed up, I'm going to say practice. Practice makes perfect. Do the same movement over and over and over and over, the same way, the same condition over and over and over and over again. So that way you start creating that connection, right? And also work on the context, right? When am I going to use this? Right? Work under it. Work that under that context as well. That helps a lot.
And this also applies, once again, for everybody out there for your personal life. The punch is your talent or whatever it is that you do, and the fight is your objective, and just continually use it and push through with it.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep. In order for you to have a goal in life, it doesn't have to be in the gym. It doesn't have to be a fight. In order for you to have a goal in life, you have to make that goal. You have to define it properly, and you have to work towards it. And you don't have to make drastic changes every single day. 1% change this week and 1% change the next week, and you do that for a month, you've changed at least 4%. It's additive.
You know, I try telling all of my athletes the same thing. If you can do 20 today and 21 tomorrow, even if you wanted to do 50 like everyone else is doing, right now you're doing more work because you can't even get to there. And you're pushing harder to get to 20 than what we're pushing to get to 50.
Yeah.
And when you hit 21, that's a fucking goal.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
You hit 21,
unfortunately, a lot of people see that one rep or that one extra pound or that one extra fist. You know what I mean? They see it like, oh, but it's just one more. But exponentially, it's still an infinity fucking amount of progress.
Yeah.
Yep, it is.
Game of inches and all that.
Yes, definitely. Guys, this was fantastic. If you have any closing things you want to say so we can wrap it up, this was absolutely amazing. And I'm pretty sure we can keep going for hours because you put in working your body, you put in working your mind, and you put in martial arts, which does both, and I'm a happy motherfucker.
Same. Yep, I agree.
Guys, thank you everybody for watching this episode of Shoot the Shit with Joey Zaza. We got John, we got Joel. Send us all of your comments, send us your emails, let us know what you want us to talk shit about. Let us know if you want to come on and pop the shit with us, yo. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Be safe.
Bye.